Can you give me 5 minutes? In 5 minutes, I can make you an expert on primary productivity.
All right, so let's jump right in. We're going to talk about the absolute foundation of, well, pretty much all life on Earth. We're breaking down how ecosystems take pure sunlight and turn it into the actual stuff of life. You can think of it as the engine that powers our whole planet.
So you've definitely heard of photosynthesis, right? I mean, it's that amazing process where plants turn sunlight into food. Well, primary productivity, it basically takes that idea and slaps a number on it. We're not just asking if plants are making energy. We're measuring how much and, crucially, how fast.
So, to put it really simply, primary productivity is basically the speed of photosynthesis. It's the rate of plant growth in a specific area. We're not just measuring that energy is being created, but the actual pace, like how fast that biological assembly line is running.
Okay, but how do you actually measure this, right? You can't just, count the energy. To really compare, say, a rainforest to a desert, you need a standard unit, and that's exactly what we do. We measure the energy in kilocalories that's captured in a specific space, a square meter, over a specific amount of time, usually a year. That's what gives us that true apples-to-apples comparison of how productive these different places really are.
All right, to really lock this next part in, we're going to use an analogy that I think everyone can get behind: getting a paycheck. This is the perfect way to explain the two most important types of productivity. First up, we have what's called gross primary productivity, or GPP. Just think of this as your gross pay. You know, that big, exciting number you see on your paycheck before they take anything out. It's the total absolute amount of energy that plants manage to capture from the sun.
But, of course, just like with a paycheck, there are, expenses. This is where respiration comes in. You can think of it as the plant's own energy bill. See, plants have to burn some of that energy they just made just to stay alive, to grow, to repair themselves, all that basic stuff. So respiration is basically the taxes that get taken out of their energy paycheck right away.
So what's actually left over? What's the amount you get to take home? That's net primary productivity, or NPP. This is your take-home pay. It's the energy that gets stored as real physical growth, new leaves, wood, roots. And this is the really important part. It's the energy that's available for everyone else in the ecosystem, the consumers, to actually eat. And you can see here, the logic is exactly the same. For your paycheck, take-home pay is just your gross pay minus taxes. Well, in an ecosystem, the net primary productivity is just the gross primary productivity minus what the plant uses for respiration. It's a really simple but super powerful equation. NPP equals GPP minus R. Okay, so why does all this plant accounting even matter? I mean, how does this one simple equation lead to something huge? Well, it turns out this isn't just about plants. This is the very foundation for all the incredible diversity of life we see on our planet.
It really all boils down to one of the most fundamental rules in ecology. The higher an ecosystem's net primary productivity is, the more life it can support. It's that simple. More energy at the bottom of the food web means you can build a bigger, more complex, and more vibrant web on top of it.
So, how exactly does that work? Well, for one, high NPP just means there's more food around for the plant eaters. But it's more than that. More plant growth also creates more physical structure. More places for animals to live, to hide, to raise their babies. It's kind of like a city with a booming economy. It can support a way bigger and more diverse population with lots of different jobs.
All right, so if high productivity is the goal for a super healthy ecosystem, what are the ingredients you need? What's the recipe? What actually makes the difference between a lush forest and a barren desert?
Well, for ecosystems on land, it really boils down to three main things. You got to have plenty of water for photosynthesis. You need temperatures that are warm enough for things to actually grow. And you need enough nutrients in the soil to build all that new plant stuff. If an ecosystem is missing even one of these key ingredients, its productivity is going to be seriously held back.
So now, let's take that recipe and put it to the test. Let's do a quick trip around the world and see where we find the most productive hotspots and where we don't.
Whoa, this chart really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? Just look at the difference here. A tropical rainforest is cranking out something like 8,000 or 9,000 kilocalories of energy per square meter every single year. And then you have a desert, which is struggling to produce maybe a couple hundred. You can literally see our three-part recipe at work right here.
And this table breaks it all down. It shows us the why.
So tropical rainforests, swamps, marshes, they've basically hit the jackpot. They've got tons of water, high temps, lots of nutrients. They are absolute productivity powerhouses. But then you look at the other end of the spectrum. Deserts, they're missing water. The tundra, way too cold. And then you've got the open ocean, which you'd think would be super productive, but it's missing a key ingredient that might surprise you.
And this leaves us with this really interesting puzzle. I mean, the open ocean covers over 70% of our planet. It gets tons of sunlight, and obviously it's got plenty of water. So why is it basically a biological desert? Well, it all comes back to that third ingredient, nutrients. Once you get far away from land, there just isn't enough raw material for all the tiny phytoplankton to use. It's a pretty powerful reminder that just being huge isn't everything. It really makes you wonder, right? What does this mean for our planet's ability to support life as our climate continues to change?
Thanks for giving me 5. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment.